of you don't have a need to know, and it's a state secret. Well, we use that against them by coming out with everything we can throw at them, and they can't defend themselves, and now the public's believing it because they didn't defend themselves.
Well,
and so we get an open path here, and it is extremely powerful. And incidentally, that's why there's a number of sites that have been pressured by the United States government not to put my stuff on their site. Now, there was one site this week that put up my article, part of what I published, Saturday, and it's the most popular article out of, 50 or 70 articles, whatever they've got on there. And this just burns the government to death because I attack them at every corner. And I'm writing another one now. I got another one for tomorrow that's equally as villainous. I get another one coming for Saturday, and I'm going to whack them every time I go up there. And believe me, John, we're killing them.
Kill the liars with the truth. That's the one thing they cannot stand, exposure.
That's right.
We'll take the break. We'll invite your calls. Please don't pile them up in the last hour. It's too frenzied, and we end up cutting people short, and we don't like to do that. 800-313-9443 is the call-in number. Had enough of this crap? I'm certainly tired of talking about it. I want to start taking these suckers down.
You're tuned in to the National Intel Report, the Real Talk Radio Show.
Is it starting to make sense to people? Remember Bob Schultz? He just finished up the CC09 thing at St. Charles outside of Chicago. Remember, I think it was, 2001. I think it was the summer of 2001. We were going to have Mr. Rosati from the IRS come into the National Press Club that's right down the street from Congress in Washington, D.C. And they were going to address the public and the press, and they were going to show us the law. Well, there is no law. There is no remedy in federal courts when the IRS comes after you. All these judges know this. They are instructed as to what to do handling these IRS cases. And very simply put, and Bob, you've said this before, you've said it repeatedly, about, how to save jobs in this country, start putting tariffs and taxes on the stuff that comes into the country, like we used to. Well, this is exactly what they have done with the Fed Reserve notes. It is a foreign corporation. It is a tax or a lien by way of bankruptcy of 1933. They cannot do away with that. That is the surety there for the banksters. And keeping in mind that, and J.P. Morgan was in on the fix on this deal in 1907, building up. They laid the groundwork for the banking crises in America that we need a national or a Federal Reserve Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been wealth transference par excellence off the sweat and blood and the tears of all the generations that have gone through this 100-year cycle, dealing with the usurious ones. They have broken the back of this country. They have looted it of your labor and wealth, and they're getting ready to put the kibosh on it to do what, Bob? To bring in the global governance. We've got people that have come out and said that 2009, hey, it's the first year of global governance. This is your new world order, and what has to go, ladies and gentlemen, is the United States. It has to go in its form, or at least in the illusion in people's eyes of what this country is supposed to be, needs to be done away with to mold us in to this great global governance scheme. Bob, did I miss anything?
No, and you're absolutely thoroughly correct. And one of the things that really gets me is that there are probably two newsletter writers that I know of who will get into what I get into, which are the things that you've just spoken about, among other things. And recently they just had a conference in New York City, and two people went there. They didn't know each other, And they asked these people who were speakers at this conference, which was a hard money conference, why don't you tackle the things that the Fed Reserve and the IRS and the CFTC and the SEC and the government are doing to our country? And why don't you, name names and talk about who's doing what to whom? And all of them said, "Oh, we don't want to get into that. That's not our job. And all we talk about is gold and silver and some of the monetary and fiscal policies of the United States." And what the problem here is this, with most all of these people, there's just a couple of exceptions, and they have very good publications. They hide behind the respectability of, well, I'm a newsletter writer, or something to that effect, or I don't believe in the Illuminati and a group of people worldwide who are trying to bring about big world government. And this is why so few people understand what's going on, because they refuse to bring it out. And that's why my articles, when they come out, when they're carried on other sites, the few that will carry them, it's number one. I'm only the only one out there telling the truth. Now, what's interesting here is that you think they would get it. In the last 2 years, the average newsletter has lost about 75% of their subscribers. My publication has doubled. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. But they're crippling us, they're hurting us, because they're not telling the people the truth, and I think it's disgusting.
And it would serve their benefit. Years ago, I could not understand.
They don't have any guts.
I couldn't understand. If businesses in this country were sick of the boom in the bust cycles, of the layoffs and the this and all the things that are piled on to recessions and dips in the market, if you wanted a stable economy in which to purvey your product to the consumers, as they like to call us, wouldn't it benefit and behoove you to have a stable dollar in which to do business in that climate? Wouldn't it be in your best interest? Henry Ford saw it. Henry Ford wrote books about it. Later, the people lied and said, before he died, he apologized for writing those books that he stuck in every Model T that went down his assembly line down in the River Rouge area in Michigan. He never apologized for that. He saw exactly what the problem was at the turn of last century, and he was telling the world about it. The man knew. So did Edison. So did Harvey Firestone. So did all of his friends. They all knew what the game was, and they tried to alert people. Well, these people were just anti-Semitic. No, they weren't. They loved doing business here in this country. It was a great environment in which to produce, invent, produce, put people to work, have the machine going, and everybody living a good life, having a standard of living that this world has never seen. My God in heaven, it would be in their interest. But you're right, Bob. They are totally gutless. Totally.
And you notice what happened to Ford? It became a leader in the Illuminati after he died.
Yeah.
The whole family capitulated. Mm-hmm. The Dearborn Press went up in flames, and the same thing happened with many other industries. They all became part of the group. I used to discuss this in part when I was in my teens with Corning, Bill Corning, Corning Glass. I used to caddy for him. And he was totally sucked in. And I was just really learning that something was wrong at that time, but I didn't know what it was. Yeah. And maybe he didn't either.
He might not have. I mean, look, this has been such a masterful plan of controlling the huge, and I mean at one time, folks, the huge economic engine that this country had. And it had its problems. It was beset by problems. because the people that did business didn't really own up to their own responsibilities about the environment and so on and so forth. We all know that. But it was a model of production. It was a way to do business that people benefited. Everybody benefited. It was the company owners. It was the stockholders. It was the employees. It was the communities. It was the store owner. It was the mom and pop butcher shop on the corner or the corner bar or whatever. This money flowed within the United States, and everybody got to touch it. Everybody got to touch a part of the American dream. Now they've become a slave to it. Now they're gripping onto it so tight, their knuckles are white, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. They don't understand how it was stolen from them. They don't understand the beautiful mechanism that these international bankster gangsters had set up to literally steal this country right out from under us.